Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. All right guys, all my sweet friends, it is Thursday, November 14th, and as I promised yesterday, I'm going to do an in-depth decode of the Q drops from yesterday, November 13th, and then I'm going to do a second video with the news because with the Q decode, I don't think there'll be room enough left over to do the news as well, so I'll do that in a separate video. I do have some people to thank, but I'm going to leave that for the end of the program. I know all my diehard listeners always listen to the very end, and I see I've got my furry feline friend behind me. I hope he stays there and behaves. If I have room at the end of this video, I will tell you a cat story. I'm not going to chat at the first because I don't want to turn off those people that are new listeners who may not enjoy chatting, but I do have a cat story. It's only humorous because it turned out well. All right, so, and the other thing that I just want to cover really briefly before we get into the decode, I did get a new lighting setup, and I didn't get a new camera, but it just, I've got it in a much better, I think, location. Let me know if you notice a difference with the lighting because there are other settings, and let me just run through them for a second so you can see. I do want you to be able to, be able to see my eyes and so forth, because I know I don't enjoy, like if somebody's on there wearing sunglasses or something and you can't see them, to me that's very annoying. So let me just run through these. There's this. Let me know if that is any better. We'll call that setting 2. This is a warm light, and that we'll call that setting 3. And I think we're back to the beginning on that. Yes, sorry. There we go. That's setting 1. That's where I had it. I feel like that is the best, but we'll see. And I am going to try to get a new sound set up. The mic that I have is all right, but I am going to have one that you won't be able to hear me tapping or anything. So I think that'll be much better for people that listen on their headphones and so forth. Now I did have a guy offer, and now I can't find the, so if you're out there, he had offered to buy part of the setup that I needed, and I can certainly cover for the rest. If he's still out there and if he meant that, please contact me again, because I would be delighted to have a better sound system that's not going to be, people aren't going to be picking up background noises and so forth. All right, now let's get right into it. That's enough chatting for this video. Anyway, we'll save the rest to the end, and we're going to start off with the first post from yesterday, November 13th, and it starts with a link, and the link leads to this. I've tried to make it as, so I don't have to go back and forth as much. I think it's easier for you guys to watch that way. All right, and just to note that these notes, these broadcast notes will be available on Patreon. I tried to do it the same night. Sometimes I don't get to it till the next day, but I will make a concerted effort to get that to you just as quick as possible for you guys that like to see the notes. All right, so the first thing we have here is a link. It goes to this, and what is this speaking about? Of course, this is Representative Devin Nunes, and it says, and this is by Sarah A. Carter, and of course we know that she is a trusted journalist. We know that we can trust whatever comes from her. And it says, scandal. What kind of tools and assets could a State Department official have allegedly used to surveil U.S. journalists in Ukraine? It must have been a matter of national security to order surveillance of U.S. citizen. Hopefully, duly approved by a U.S. court. Now, what's she talking about? Well, if you will remember, and I know there's been so much information dropped on us in the last 2 years that it is hard to remember everything, but July 8th, and I have went out and found this old post and put it right here for you to look at. It says, surveillance of Sarah Carter and John Solomon terminated. Sleep well, Q. Now, this was July 8th of this year, 2019, so not too terribly long ago. And Q was letting us know, probably not so much us, as he was letting Sarah Carter and John Solomon know that surveillance of them had been terminated. Well, you can't terminate something that never started, can you? So obviously there was ongoing surveillance, not just of them, but of American journalists, probably across the board. Any journalists that they knew were not in their pocket anyway, or any journalists that were, to put it more concisely, any journalists that were pro-Trump. So, and she's saying, what kind of tools and assets could a State Department have allegedly used to surveil U.S. journalists in Ukraine? And it must have been a matter of national security. Well, we know it wasn't, and we know it's illegal to surveil United States citizens without their knowledge, unless there is a matter of national security, like she's stating here, which there was not. So down below it says scandal, State Department official was monitoring U.S. journalists in Ukraine, it would say. Representative Devin Nunes told Sean Hannity on Wednesday that the State Department was aware of irregular requests made by former, and that's the former Obama administration, of course, because obviously the Trump administration through Q is letting those two journalists know that they are no longer under surveillance, because there's a new sheriff in town. And I don't know how long they were aware of this, but this was in July that they were aware of this, and they must have been aware of it before that to have been able to terminate it. So they were letting Sarah Carter and John Solomon know that, look, you know what? You were under surveillance, but it's been terminated. Now, whether they knew at that time they were under surveillance or not, I don't know. I would presume not. So let's go on. That's what this first link is about. And Q is letting us know July 8th, 2018. And that's how I knew to go back to this post, because I knew that July 8th, it's a future proves past sort of deal. And that if we went back to July 8th, we would see how it links in, and how Q always seems to know beforehand, before anything hits the news. I'm sorry, I hit that again. I'm going to have to be careful not to hit that with my foot. It always seems to know before the news, and, you know, which makes it kind of impossible for it to be a LARP, I would say. Anyway, so there you go. And right here, July 8th, Q is saying in the kill brackets here, it says surveillance of Sarah Carter and John Solomon terminated. And of course, this is the exact post 3373. And it says, and anything you see in red here are my notes to myself or to you. So that is not Q talking. I just want to clarify. On the far left side here, this is the Q post. Anything that's over here is supplemental that I've pasted in, and anything in red are notes to myself or to you. So it says relevant to upcoming D-class events. Now we know that when Q asks a question, it's not a question. He's letting us know that this is relevant, what he stated way back then, and this that Sarah Carter just put up. I'm not sure the day this was, but I think it was yesterday or the day before. So Q is letting us know this all ties in, and it all has to do with upcoming D-class events. Now, then beneath that, Q says, signal intelligent, 5I domestic. So, and of course, the SIGNT stands for signal intelligence, and the FVEY stands for Five Eyes, which includes US, Australia, UK, Canada, and New Zealand. So these are countries that have banded together to spy on one another's citizens. Essentially, you know, if the US wants to spy on somebody in the US, they can't do that legally. So what they do is they have other countries spy on them, and then they exchange information. That's how they roll. So Q is saying, here that this is relevant to the upcoming D class, and that Sarah Carter is now talking about being under surveillance, and this is a future proves past post that was made on July 8th, and it says, do you believe in coincidences? Well, Q has told us that there are no coincidences when it comes to this stuff, so I'll have to say no. And it says mathematically impossible. That's not a question. That is a statement. It is mathematically impossible. Maybe not impossible, but very, very improbable. 1 in 100, he says, what are the chances? 1 in 100? Well, I would say that it's probably, I'm not a statistics expert, but I would think statistically that it would be more than or less than a 1 in 100 chance, to me personally, but that's neither here nor there. But the narrative, and going on with Q here, but the narrative suggests nothing is accurately forecasted, and this is simply a big conspiracy theory. Loony. Ask yourself a very basic question. Why would the fake news complex, the New York Times, the Washington Post, NBC, ABC, BBC, attack us if we weren't a real threat? Exactly. Of all the crazy conspiracy theories out there, you never see them attacking the fact that there are people that believe Elvis is alive. Now, don't get into that on the comments and stuff, because it's just not relevant. But you know what I'm saying? There are all sorts of crazy conspiracy theories, but nobody ever spends time on those, debunking those, do they? No, of course not, because it's no threat to them. This is a threat to them, and they know it's real, or they wouldn't attack it. So ask yourself a very basic question. Why is the forum where drops are made under constant attack? Now, what's he talking about? He's talking about 8chan. And of course, it's now not 8chan. It was 4chan when I think Q, if I'm not mistaken, originally started posting on 4chan, and then he got his own board posted to 8chan exclusively. He said there are no communications outside of that board. But of course, because they knew that Q was posting to that board, and that's a threat to them because they knew that Q and POTUS through Q was communicating with his followers, those patriotic followers of his that were for him and could see through this. And of course, the only reason we can see so crystal clear through this is because of Q. But he, that forum was taken down. Now, why? It had been up for a very long time, hadn't been a threat before. Anyway, ask yourself a very basic question. Why is the forum where drops are made under constant attack? So that's 8chan, now 8kun. Narrative, deplatform necessary. So they needed to deplatform it. They got kicked off of whoever was providing their service. And it said why deplatform was necessary because precursor to violent acts posted there prior to carry out. That is the narrative that they gave. That's the narrative they gave for wanting to take it down, is because there were violent people there and they were posting there prior to carrying out violent acts. That is not the correct narrative, however, and we all know it. So the narrative was deplatforming is necessary because the precursor to violent acts are posted there prior to them being carried out. Precursor postings occurred on 4chan, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, IG, that is Instagram, and that is the absolute truth. There have been lots and lots of, either mass fruiters or what have you that have posted on these other, platforms, 4chan, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Instagram. They've placed things there. They've placed manifestos there. None of them were deplatformed. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is, the only difference is that 8chan was where Q communicated with followers. That's the only difference. And why only 8chan? Well, I just answered that, because this is where Q communicates with patriots and Trump supporters, right? And then bonus question, was the time of the posting pre or post actual event? And of course, my comments are in red. The manifesto, remember, the manifesto was posted after the event, which, I mean, how can that be? And they have proof of that. They have proof that the mass fruiting was ongoing while the fruiter posted this manifesto, and also mysteriously changed his pants, because they see him going in one pair of pants and coming out, being arrested in another. So somehow he was able to get off all those rounds and with just one gun, and then change his pants and post his manifesto to 8chan. Quite the talented guy, don't you think? I'm just saying. So yeah, but that was posted after the event, not before. Logical thinking. Now, this actually should be over here more, because it's not part of Q posting. However, Q mentions, the next thing he mentions is March 20th, 2019. And he says, increase in attacks, deplatform, shill infiltration, MSM, fake MAGA direct, links to terrorism, acts of violence, only demonstrates validity and close proximity to justice, in kill brackets, pain, Q. So basically he's saying the closer we get to the justice part of the plan, the more intense the attacks will become. And notice that as soon as 8kun went up and Q started posting again, mainstream media was all into the whole conspiracy theory again, just like clockwork. So, and this is, he's saying March 20th, 2019. So I went back and I grabbed that post for us to peruse. And it says, ask yourself a very simple question. Would the fake news media and other controlled assets expend this amount of time and resource attacking or attempting to discredit, cast as conspiracy, LARP, this movement if it did not pose a significant threat, danger? You attack those who threaten you the most. Logical thinking. Q. So this is the post from March 20th, and Q again repeats this logical thinking. They're not going to attack something that's not a threat to them in any way. They're not. Just like they don't attack the flat earthers or the we didn't go to the moon people or Elvis is alive or any number, or what's the other one? Michael Jackson is alive. Now, I don't care if, you know, what the truth is about those things. That's not what we're discussing. What I'm saying is they're never attacked for that. Not media-wise. You know, somebody comes up with something on a forum and people will attack them, but I'm talking everybody, like the whole mainstream media attack. You don't see that with other conspiracy theories, so why this one? If it's a conspiracy theory, what harm's it doing anybody, right? Well, we know it's doing a lot of harm to them. Yes. So, sorry, I skipped down too far there. Trigger finger. All right, and so March 20th, 2019, and we've already seen the tie-in there. It says increase in attacks, deplatform, and he's just actually reiterating exactly what he said in the post from March 20th, 2019. Increase in attacks, deplatform, shill infiltration, MSM, fake MAGA direct links to terrorism, acts of violence, only demonstrates validity and close proximity to justice, campaign. Yes, and we know we're getting closer to that. We are moving in to the final stage, which is the justice stage. The closer we get to the justice part of the plan, the more intense the attacks will become. We know that. And then Q says, boomerang. Well, what does that mean? Well, remember, this is going to be a boomerang year. Well, what they have thrown at POTUS to destroy him will come back and destroy them. You dig a pit and you fall into it, right? So the very same thing they've thrown out to the POTUS is going to circle back and that's right. You are witnessing the largest organized disinformation campaign to ever be perpetrated on the public. It is one giant psyop. Now, am I saying Q is a psyop? Maybe to some extent. He's trying to educate and wake people up. If that's a psyop, then I guess it is. But the biggest psyop and the organized disinformation is coming from the other side and the mainstream media that is in the pockets of the Democrats. We know that. Everybody knows that. If you don't know that, you need to open your eyes. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, but I mean, it's very self-evident. Once you see the tricks that they're doing, I mean, even with this impeachment scam, and it is a scam. Actually, it was a disaster for the Democrats yesterday. A disaster. I don't think they could have hurt their side any more than they did yesterday, because everybody could see, like, what, you know. And I think in the news part, I've got some clips to, you know, they're not talking about secondhand information. They're talking about fourth-hand information. Well, yeah, I heard it from so-and-so who heard it from so-and-so who heard it from so-and-so who overheard it. That's what we're dealing with. And they want to impeach a president on that. And yet Ocasio-Cortez came out and said, well, we've got to impeach him to prevent another disaster in 2020. Since when is that a reason to impeach a president? Because you don't want him reelected? Are you kidding me? And of course, I don't think she's smart enough to censor herself. So she said it. And we know that's exactly what they're doing. They don't want him reelected, but he hasn't done anything wrong. And they're wanting to overturn the will of the American people who voted him in. He is a duly elected, legally elected, and he is our president. They need to get over that. All right. So be free in your thoughts, Q says, which I think he means that don't dwell on all the negative that the Dems, I put demos, the Dems and the mainstream media, don't let them enslave your mind with what they're throwing out there, because they will if they can. That's definitely what the mainstream media is trying to do. They don't report the news anymore. It might have a kernel of truth, just enough to make it palatable and for you to swallow it, but it's mostly lies. But they put something, a little kernel of truth in there, or a little kernel of something that tastes good, and you're like, yum, yeah. And the danger is when they put a kernel of truth in there like that, what you're liable to do is to take that and think, well, this part is true, so all of it must be true. That's another game that they play. You know, if every single thing is a lie, you're not going to buy it. But if there's part truth in there, you're going to go, well, that part I know is true, so they must be telling the truth on the rest of it. Yeah, sure they are. All right. So be free in your thoughts. The Great Awakening. Return power to the people. And of course, that's what we know Donald Trump is doing. He is returning power to the people where it belongs. We were never supposed to work for them, slave for them, and give over all our hard-earned money to them so that they can waste it and run up bar tabs and trips around the world that aren't needed. No, that was never meant to be. They work for us. return power to the people. Then we have a link. We're going to go out and look at that presently. And it's been a long time since we've had a non-corrupt president who works on behalf of the American people and not himself. America is no longer for sale. Q. Now, I'm going to go out, and I know, at least I hope everybody has seen this, because Q has mentioned it.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington, and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another four-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world. It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation. And this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up. The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda. And the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. Right. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe. They will lie, and then again, they will do worse than that. They will do whatever is necessary. The Clintons are criminals, remember that. This is well documented. And the establishment that protects them has engaged in a massive cover-up of widespread criminal activity at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation in order to keep the Clintons in power. They knew they would throw every lie they could at me and my family and my loved ones. They knew they would stop at nothing to try to stop me. Nevertheless, I take all of these slings and arrows gladly for you. I take them for our movement so that we can have our country back. I knew this day would arrive. It's only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization has come upon a moment of reckoning. I didn't need to do this, believe me. I built a great company, and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefit of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family, instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, deceptions, malicious attacks. Who would have thought? I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
I've never played that in its entirety, and I wasn't going to actually, and I thought, you know, the last times that I was going to play this, because of course Q has referred to it many, many times, and the last times my channel was monetized and I couldn't play it. But I figured this time, you know what, I don't have anything to lose. I'm not monetized anyway, so I want to play it, and I'm always moved by this. When I saw the American flags, I just kind of tear up. I don't know, it just, and the music and everything, it just makes your heart swell. So I wanted to play that, and I figured that those of you that didn't want to listen to it all could fast forward. All right, let's go back. That was this link, and of course we've read the rest of that post, so we're going to go to the next, and the next is this one. It's again, it gives us a link, and it says, what are the odds of that? Mathematically impossible? Coincidence? The truth is right in front of you. Now we're going to go and look at this, but note that the Q campaign and Durham appointment occurred the same day. That's not a coincidence. So let's go look at the link that he has provided for us here, and it's here. This is a tweet by Secret Agent. I don't think he's really a secret agent, but who the heck knows these days? And he said, sorry, I think I just gave you the finger. I didn't mean to. I was trying to scratch my nose. I would never give you guys the finger. I have a funny story about that, but I won't tell it. John Durham was appointed by Trust Sessions, and he put Trust Sessions in there because remember when Q all along always said Trust Sessions, Trust Sessions, and then all of a sudden President Trump came out and started saying all these negative things about Sessions, and people were like, oh, see, Q, yeah, it's not right, it's not real. Because, you know, Q said to trust Sessions, and it's clear we can't. Well, I knew then that that was, remember, Q keeps telling us we're watching a movie. These people are playing parts. They're playing parts. What makes a good movie, he asked us. Good actors, good plot. So anyway, John Durham was appointed by Trust Sessions on October 28th, 2017 as interim U.S. attorney, later nominated by POTUS as U.S. attorney. So he was appointed interim U.S. attorney on October 28th by Jeff Sessions, and later he was nominated as full U.S. attorney, not interim, but full U.S. attorney, by POTUS. QAnon's first archived post is dated the same date, October 28th, 2017. Coincidence? I don't think so. So we can look here, and this is from the 11th of November, month day, Q public campaign initiated, month day Durham initiated. Well, same day. And says Mr. Durham has served as the interim U.S. Attorney since October 28, 2017, after U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions signed an order appointing him to the position. President Donald Trump nominated Mr. Durham to serve as U.S. Attorney on November 1st, 2017, and the U.S. Senate confirmed his nomination on February 16, 2018. So, all very interesting. And what is this? As a side note, Q later tells us several times that disinformation is necessary. We now understand why. Moves and counter-moves confuse the enemy. And because remember, this started 28th of October. It said Hillary Clinton will be arrested 7:45 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday, the morning on August 30th, 2017. Well, we know that she wasn't, but he also says disinformation is real, disinformation is necessary. So I think something like that had to happen, like something that would get everybody's attention, because my gosh, who doesn't want Hillary Clinton arrested? I don't know anybody, except maybe some of her friends, but I think most of her friends are just too afraid of her. I would be. I'd be afraid that, you know, you cross her and, well, and you cross the line from this life to the next. That's how it goes with her. So anyway, let's go back and see what else Q wants us to know. All right. And next we come to this. And it says, first of all, there is a link that he provides us. And let's go out and look at that link. He wants us to go, and we're going to go. Okay. Excuse me. I don't know why I'm like itchy everywhere, and I don't know why. Allergies, I guess. All right. So this is who is this from? Hang on here. This is from the Judiciary Committee, and Chuck Grassley is the chairman, and it's to the Honorable Rod J. Rosenstein. This is from July 20th, 2017. According to new reports, during the 2016 presidential election, Ukrainian government officials tried to help Hillary Clinton and undermined Trump, and did so by disseminating documents implicating a top Trump aide in corruption, and suggested they were investigating the matter. Ukrainian officials also reportedly helped Clinton's allies research damning information on Trump and his advisors. At the center of this plan was Alexandra Chalupa, described by reports as a Ukrainian-American operative who was consulting for the, I was going to say demonic, the Democratic, well, you know, if the shoe fits. Excuse me. For the Democratic National Committee, and reportedly met with Ukrainian officials during the presidential election for the express purpose of exposing alleged ties between then-candidate Donald Trump, Paul Manafort, and Russia. Politico also reported on a Financial Times story that quoted a Ukrainian legislator, Serhiy Lyshenko, saying that Trump's candidacy caused Kiev wider political leadership to do something they would never have attempted before, intervene, however indirectly, in a U.S. election. Reporting indicates that the Democratic National Committee encouraged Chalupa to, I don't know why, but as soon as I see Chalupa, I think I'm hungry. Why is that? I'm sorry. I'm not going to interrupt myself again. I probably will, so forgive me in advance. Chalupa to interface with Ukrainian embassy staff to arrange an interview in which Poroshenko, the president of Ukraine, might discuss Manafort's ties to Yanukovych. Chalupa also met with Valery Chaly, Ukraine's ambassador to the U.S., and Oksana Shulyar, a top aide to the Ukrainian ambassador in March 2016, and shared her alleged concerns about Manafort. Reports state that the purpose of their initial meeting was to organize a June reception at the embassy to promote Ukraine. However, another Ukrainian embassy official, Andriy Teleshenko, told Politico that Shulyar instructed him to assist Chalupa with research to connect Trump, Manafort, and the Russians. He reportedly said they were coordinating an investigation with the Hillary team. Oh, well, look, isn't that interesting? Of course, we know all this, but Hillary team on Paul Manafort with Alexandria Chalupa, and that Oksana was keeping it all quiet. The embassy worked very closely with Chalupa. Chalupa's actions appear to show that she was simultaneously working on behalf of a foreign government, Ukraine, and on behalf of the DNC and Clinton campaign in an effort to influence not only the U.S. voting population, but U.S. government officials. Indeed, Teleshenko recalled that Chalupa told him and Shulyar, if we get enough information on Paul Manafort or Trump's involvement with Russia, she can get a hearing in Congress by September. Later, Chalupa did reportedly meet with staff in the office of Democratic Representative Marcy Kaptur to discuss a congressional investigation. Excuse me. That sinus infection I had is coming back for a second round, so I am struggling again with my voice. Sorry. Such a public investigation would not only benefit the Hillary campaign, but it would benefit the Ukrainian government, which at the time was working against the Trump campaign. When Politico attempted to ask Representative Kaptur's office about the meeting, the office called it a touchy subject. Aside from the apparent evidence of collusion between the DNC Clinton campaign and Ukrainian government, Chalupa's actions implicate the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA. As you know, the committee is planning a hearing on FARA enforcement. Given the public reporting of these activities in support of a foreign government, it is imperative that the Justice Department explain why she had not been required to register under FARA. FARA requires individuals to register with the Justice Department if they act, even though through an intermediary, as an agent, representative, employee, or servant, or in any other capacity at the behest of a foreign principal, including a foreign political party, for the purpose of engagement with a United States official. The registration applies to anyone who attempts to influence a U.S. government official. I hate when it does that. On behalf of a foreign principal in an effort to formulate, adopt, or change the domestic or foreign policies of the United States. As such, the focus of FARA is to require registration for individuals engaged in political or quasi-political activity on behalf of a foreign government. Likewise, an individual whose activities are subject to registration under FARA and who sends informational material for or in the interest of a foreign principal with the intent or belief that such material will be circulated among at least two persons must transmit the material to the Attorney General no later than 48 hours after actual transmission, noting an ongoing failure to register is an ongoing offense. According to documents provided to the committee, the Justice Department required the Podesta Group and Mercury LLC to register under FARA for working on behalf of the Ukrainian government. Their registration was required even though the client, the European Center for... I wouldn't read all this except that Q has forwarded us to this link. So obviously he wants us to be aware of it. So hang on here. The registration was required even though the client, the European Center for the Modern Ukraine, wrote a letter saying it was not directly or indirectly controlled by the Ukrainian government. That did not matter to the Justice Department because their lobbying activity was not to benefit commercial interests of the ECFMU, but instead promote the political or public interests of a foreign government or foreign political party. The Justice Department made clear that an individual acting in the political or public interest of a foreign government must register under FARA. As such, because Podesta and Mercury were effectively working on behalf of Ukrainian government interests, they were required to register. Unlike the situation where the Podesta Group and Mercury LLC worked for the middleman, EFCMU, and not the Ukrainian government, here Chalupa reportedly worked directly with the Ukrainian government officials to benefit Ukraine, lobbying Congress on behalf of Ukraine, and worked to undermine the Trump campaign on behalf of Ukraine and the Clinton campaign. According to these facts, appearing to be exactly the type of activity Congress intended to reach with FARA, please answer the following. What actions has the Justice Department taken to enforce FARA requirements regarding Chalupa, given the public reporting of her actions on behalf of the Ukrainian government? Why has the Justice Department not required her to register under FARA? Great questions. Has the Justice Department sent a letter of inquiry to Chalupa? If so, please provide a copy. If not, why not? Under 28 CFR 5.2, any present or prospective agent of a foreign entity may request an advisory opinion from the Justice Department regarding the need to register. Has Chalupa ever requested one in relation to her work on behalf of the Ukrainian government? If so, please provide a copy of the request and opinion. Please differentiate the facts that required the Podesta Group and Mercury LLC to register with Chalupas. Are you investigating the Ukrainian government's intervention in the 2016 presidential election on behalf of the Clinton campaign? If not, why not? Are you investigating links and coordination between the Ukrainian government and individuals associated with the campaign of Hillary Clinton or the Democratic National Committee? If not, why not? I anticipate your written response, and the responsive documents will be unclassified. Please send all unclassified material directly to the committee in keeping with the requirements of Executive Order 13526. If any of the responsive documents do contain classified information, please segregate all unclassified material within the classified documents. Provide all unclassified information directly to the committee and provide a classified addendum to the Office of Senate Security. The committee complies with all laws and regulations regarding the handling of classified information. The committee is not bound, absent its prior agreement, by any handling restrictions or instructions or unclassified information unilaterally asserted by the executive branch. Thank you in advance for your cooperation with this request. Please respond no later than August 3rd, 2017. If you have questions, contact Josh Flynn Brown of my Judiciary Committee staff. Now, that was a letter sent to Rod Rosenstein, and he was supposed to reply no later than August 3rd, 2017. And let's go back. Let's see what Q is wanting us to know. And it says, read carefully. Well, we just read it. Reread carefully. I'm not going to reread that, but the link is there, and again, I will put that in the, I put the broadcast notes up on Patreon, so you will be able to have access to this, and of course, it's on the Q board. It's on, let me see, what is the address here? It's on qanon.pub. All the Q posts are there, and you can peruse those at your leisure whenever. And let me see here. So it says, reread carefully. Spy insert known. Now, who are they talking about? EC, who is ERIC, and the last name, Caramel Melons. So that's not the name, but it sounds sort of like that. And he is the WB. So the WB, one that started all this crap with the impeachment, well, he didn't start it. They've been looking for anything to impeach him since he was elected. I mean, this has been a long time. You know, it wouldn't have mattered what he did. They're still going to manufacture something to try and impeach him because that's the way they are. So spy insert, and I'm just going to refer to EC as the whistleblower. Was it known? Well, that's not a question. He's telling us it was known. Reread drops regarding spy insert. What do these people have in common? Pelosi's son, Kerry's son, Romney's son, Biden's son. Hint, geolocation, Ukraine. Hint, energy. Coincidence? When George Soros calls, Democrats always answer. That's the truth. Nothing can stop what is coming. Nothing. So, yes, all of their sons, Pelosi's son, Kerry's son, Romney's son, Biden's son, they all worked for energy companies in the Ukraine and made a lot of money. Huh. Isn't that interesting? So, and this is a comment by Dio Presso Lieber, Sun Q2. Follow the wives and kids of the cabal. When Soros calls, the Dems come running. Q implicated Romney's son in the Ukraine controversy. QAnon telling us to follow the wives and kids. Mitt Romney's son, Tag, was the director of a secretive private equity firm called Solomir Capital Partners. The firm was involved in distribution of voting machines, among other things. Imagine that. And investigated for fraud. And we're going to come down and I'm going to read this from Lisa Mae Crowley, who, again, you can find her on Twitter. She does a fabulous job with decoding, and she's also a veteran. Chuck Grassley, July 17th memo to Rod Rosenstein regarding Chalupa working with DNC in Ukraine to undermine Trump. Solomon reports highlighted White House meeting with Ukraine in January 2016. EC, the whistleblower, worked at the White House until 2017. He is a spy. Chalupa and the whistleblower in White House visitor logs. So they have both Chalupa and WB, the WB, in the White House visitor logs. How damning is that? Prominent Dem sons worked for energy companies in Ukraine. Soros very interested in Ukraine. Yeah, coincidence? I think not. He co-founded an anti-corruption action center, which Yovanovitch pressed Ukraine prosecutors not to investigate. Yeah. Regarding a diverted $4.4 million. So there you go. I mean, no wonder these guys, the ones that are the most vocal, usually have the most to lose. So yeah, there's Biden's son, Romney's son, Kerry's son, Pelosi's son. Interesting. Let's go on. I'm just going to skip over here, make sure everything is recording still, and it is. And that light seems a little bit dim to me, but I don't know. All right, I'm not going to mess with it right now. I'm going to go back here. Yes, I am. And you're not going to stop me either. And you couldn't stop me. All right. So here is the next post. And again, November 13th. All of these are from November 13th. And this is post number 3591. And Q gives us a link and says, follow the family. Q. Well, let's go and let's follow. Here we go. I'm hoping you can see this because I know some of you guys are on your phones. What I'll do is I'll make this as big as I possibly can. And since Q has led us here, I think it's important. It's 2 minutes and 51 seconds. So I think this is important. So hopefully on your phones, if I make it big, you'll be able to see it. That's my hope. So let's.
The best way to predict the future is to create it yourself. When President Obama became president of the United States, he elevated science to a higher place in our national priorities. It is science, 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 and science. Breaking our crippling addiction to oil. They are developing desirable, efficient cars that get more than 100 miles per gallon. My son Paul, who is here with me, tells me that that is par for the course and not to be overwhelmed by that prospect that would be considered the normal.
We're having a very exciting day here in Washington, D.C. A lot of focus on innovation and technology to help solve a lot of the world's energy crisis. Both oil spills, which we'll be participating in, cars and efficiency, which is represented today, and space and different adventures in using technology from space to make human conditions better here. My name is Paul Pelosi. Of course, I'm on the board with Viscal Oil. And Viscal's here today to talk about accelerating the future. It's about using cars in a more efficient manner. It's about utilizing natural resources, whether it be electricity or gas or fossil fuels, in a more efficient way. And Viscal Oil is part of that solution. We're also going to take place in the next X Prize competition. This X Prize rewarded cars, utilization of natural resources through the use of technology. And that's what Viscal Oil does. It uses technology to maximize the use of natural resources, like oil and other resources. We're excited about the X Prize. Today we rewarded some cars that use oil efficiently and use alternative energy efficiently. The next X Prize has to do with oil spill cleanup and preservation of our planet. Viscal Oil will be part of the next X Prize. It should be very successful in cleaning up oil spills such as that happen in the Gulf to improve the quality of life for the people in the Gulf area and around the country and around the globe. And Viscal Oil is the leader in technology, and that's what's rewarded here today. In their innovative agenda for the United States, Viscal Oil is using these new technologies in an effective fashion. And look forward to the challenges and meeting those challenges going forward.
Whoops, hang on. All right, so let's go back. That's Paul Pelosi. And it says follow the family cue. So obviously Paul is in the business of oil. Interesting, and I'm not exactly sure what that video was supposed to show us, other than the fact that he is in that, and I believe, oh, okay, the next one is going to show us, actually. I couldn't understand why I hadn't put notes there, and then I thought, okay, it's in the next one. Right. Now, this is the very next one. This is 3592, and it gives us a link to the Washington Times, and it says, follow the family cue. And if we went to the, this is the link, and I've clipped this here. Company co-founded by Nancy Pelosi's son charged with securities fraud. Well, 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 and this is July 17th, 2014. The Securities and Exchange Commission charged a company co-founded by Paul Pelosi Jr. with fraud on Wednesday after learning that two convicted criminals were running the business. Paul Pelosi Jr., the son of House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, was the president and chief operating officer of Natural Blue Resources, an investment company he co-founded that focuses on environmentally friendly ventures. The Security and Exchange Commission charged 4 individuals with fraud, including a former New Mexico governor, Tony Anaya, and suspended trading in the company's stocks. Pelosi owned over 10 million shares in the company in 2009. The Security and Exchange Commission said Wednesday the company was secretly controlled by James E. Cohen and Joseph Karazi, both of whom had previous fraud convictions. Karazi violated federal security laws and was barred from acting as an officer or director of a public company. Cohen was previously incarcerated for financial fraud. Cohen and Karazi said they were outside consultants, but according to the Security Exchange Commission, they actually controlled National Blue's business decisions without disclosing their past brushes with the law to investors. The pair made hundreds of thousands of dollars on the company. Yeah, well, isn't that special? It is, isn't it? Just making sure I don't have anything else listed there. Well, like mother, like son, I guess. Not surprising. They were probably having Pelosi run it for them because he could be the public face of it. Unbelievable. And of course, I bet if we looked, he didn't have any experience that would warrant him being able to run that company at all, just like Hunter Biden. All right, and now we are in the last 2 drops from Q, and we are on 3593. Q leaves a link here, and that link does not work. So he posts the exact same thing below. He posts this first. We're not going to read it because the exact same thing is posted below with the correct link. At least I believe that's what Q is doing here, because he posts it first with this link that goes nowhere. It's a dead link. I hate it when your links die. And then he posts it again, but with the link here. So this is interesting because what is he posting here? Let's read this first. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you may take your stand against the devil's scheme. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after having done everything to stand, stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Prepare for God, and now that is where the Bible quote ends, which is the word of God. Then Q says, prepare for God and country, for humanity, we fight. Q. Now, Q has used this before, and he's used this passage actually more than once, but every time he's quoted this, now this is from Ephesians chapter 6, very, very popular, for kids that memorize verses and adults, that are, actually read the Bible. This is a favorite verse. It is Ephesians 6, and it's verses 10 to 17. But it's interesting to note that all past references contained verses 10 to 18. Now, what is missing? What is the verse 18? I don't think that's the point here, because this is verse 18, from the NIV version, I believe, and pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayer and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. Now, that was left out. It wasn't left out the last times that he posted this, but it was left out this time, and I believe it's not so much about the verse. I believe that it's about stopping at verse 17. I think that is the point. It's not the point of the actual, drop there. That's not the point. But I think the point of leaving out verse 18 is so that it ends at verse 17. And of course, this verse is a wonderful verse, and it does actually, you can apply it to the movement, waking up, and so forth. And so down here, he puts the exact same thing that we just read, except he reposted it with what I assume is the correct link. So let's go and take a look at this. Not going to play all of it. It's a song. It says Future World Music Victory of Life Volume 11 Preview Early 2011. The music is beautiful. I love it. So that link is there for any of you that would like to go out and listen to this in full. That music is beautiful. I'm going to let this play through just because it's so beautiful, and you can fast forward it if you want to get to the rest. Absolutely beautiful music. And very spiritually stirring, I find. All right. So that is the end of the Q drops for the 13th. And we're going to go back here. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep hitting that. I'm going to have to change that so that my foot cannot so readily knock it. But we're going to come back here, and I do have some people to thank, and I'd like to do that because none of this is possible without support. So anyway, we're going to come back up here, and this is the end for those of you that do not want to hear this. That's the end of the Q post. I am going to come back with a second video, and we're going to cover the news from today. But first, I want to thank coffee donors. Lane, who thanked me for my work. Liz from Missouri thanks me for the Q updates. Margie, And yes, Margie, it definitely does help. Thank you so very, very much. And Tara Mar says she loves the show. Thank you for the support. Rohar Jonas thanks me. He said coffee for you and treats for Sammy and Xander. Well, Sammy and Xander will be delighted because you know they don't get enough treats. Okay, well, maybe they do. All right, and Jim from Carlisle, Iowa, thanks me for bringing the real news. And BB prayed that Jesus would send someone to fix the staple gun. God bless you, BB. You are awesome. But I did manage, I contacted the company, and I did manage to get the exact one, and they gave it to me for, I think it was $14 because they're phasing it out. I guess they just don't make them anymore, so it was leftover stock, and they sent it to me, so it was exact. But I did level with my stepfather about what happened to the staple gun, and I showed him all the pieces, and we all had a hearty laugh. So anyway, thank you for that, and thank you for the support. And Anon says, here's a bit for coffee, cables, or cats. Well, that's exactly what it'll go for, coffee, cables, or cats. Thank you. And new Patreon supporter, woohoo, Cheryl Aguilar. Thank you so much for your support. And I got a couple things in the mail today. I should have added it to the little snail mail thing, but I didn't have time. James L., I'm not going to give the full name, from Syracuse, New York, not that far from me. And he sent he just sent a donation along with as needed. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. I really do. And another from, who is this from? Sent a little note and a little donation. Yeah, lovely little note from Little Lady in Texas. So that's what they call themselves, and obviously they didn't want their name read, or I would have. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you for all your encouragement. I think in my next video, I think this is probably enough for now, but in my next video, I may just have a cat story for you that is interesting. Yeah. All right, well, thank you guys, and I will see you in the next video. I hope you stick around for it. It might be a little bit before I upload it, so don't look for it immediately because I haven't had my supper yet. So I'm going to take a break, have a bit to eat, and then I'll be back to record video number 2. Take care, you guys. I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate you more than I can ever let you know, your comments and so forth. Some of you guys are hysterical, and some of you guys are just so sweet. But anyway, I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you sticking around. Also, make sure if you want to be subscribed that you stay subscribed, because YouTube plays its little YouTube games and does drop people from my subscriber list. Also, if you wish to be notified of future videos, hit that little bell, and I will talk to you guys soon. Stay safe, stay well, and nobody really thinks that Epstein killed himself, do they?